Angola was once a land ravished by civil war and political turmoil. But as it celebrated 40 years of independence from Portugal in November, a different identity has emerged.
É sentimento de muita alegria, sobretudo sentimento de liberdade.
It's a very happy feeling. Overall, it's a feeling of liberty. It's as if I was closed in and they opened the doors for me to get out. It's like being imprisoned and finally getting your own freedom back. Our feeling is of liberty and generally of great responsibility, because we have a responsibility to develop plans, projects, and overall the responsibility to guarantee a better future for our population. In these 40 years since our independence, we still haven't accomplished everything, but we have a feeling of pride because we're able to lift our population out of a state of domination, discrimination, extreme poverty due to over 30 years of war that we experienced. In these 40 years of independence, we're able to achieve peace 13 years ago.
Por causa dos mais de 30 anos de guerra que tivemos, e nesses 40 anos da independência nós conseguimos há 13 anos alcançar a paz.
Yeah, obviously, the 40th celebration is a time of great national pride, not only for me personally, but for the country. Angola is still a very young nation. We believe that it still has a lot to reach. It's a country that has abundant natural resources, and it also has a very young population that is keen to see these resources in many ways benefit themselves and benefit the country as a whole. So there's a lot of hope when we Angolans look at the future of the country. But there's also a lot of pride when we look back and understand where the country has come from when it achieved independence in the 11th of November of 1975.
It's difficult to describe, you know. It's a kind of a feeling that it's really difficult to describe, especially to those that lived during the colonization era. Because during the colonization times, people witnessed a lot of injustice with the locals, with the nationals. So today we don't see it. The youngster right now are born fear-free. They can just develop their dreams and fight for the dreams.
Since the end of Angola's civil war in 2002, progress in improving the lives of its people has exceeded that of other resource-rich countries in sub-Saharan Africa with similar gross domestic product per capita growth. The oil-rich nation is now Africa's 5th largest economy.
Well, Angola has obviously come a long way. It's still a young nation. It's been building itself up since independence in 1975. It's had a long period of civil struggle, which ended in 2002. And ever since then, the country has been in an irreversible growth track. That's been proven by the increases in GDP, as well as other economic indicators. So it's come really a long way since 1975, when it became an independent nation. It's gone through a period of instability. It's gone through periods of very high inflation rates and of a stagnation in terms of most of its industries. And as you can probably see now, this period it's gone. It has a very strong oil industry. Other sectors are also growing. The non-oil sector is growing at an average of over 10% per year. Real incomes are rising at nearly the same rate. Living conditions are improving. So the country has had a difficult path, but it's definitely on a strong growing and improvement trend as we speak. And we believe this will be the way forward over the coming decades.
One of the biggest challenges Africa's 2nd largest oil producer faces is its heavy reliance on the resource for revenues. The oil price collapse has had a big impact on the country's economy. Pedro Godinho Domingos who has over 20 years' experience in the oil and gas industry in Angola, believes the nation will overcome this.
You know, I wouldn't say it's a nightmare, but it's gonna be difficult because for an economy like Angola that was depending 90%, more than 90% of exportation, and 35% just of a contribution on GDP, 65% on the fiscal incomes. I think that you know, having such reduction of more than 100% the price, you know, more than 50%, it's a big shock, and we're gonna need just to be very creative and pragmatic to overcome these difficult times that we are going through, because everything was relying on oil. And I believe that even with some warnings that we were getting from some signals that we are getting from US by their production on the shale oil, I believe that people were caught, you know, just as a surprise, because a lot of people were not expecting to see this big crash on the oil price so rapidly and so sharply. But anyway, it's a situation, you know, it's challenging. It's one more challenging, because, you know, whoever that was born in Angola learns to survive.
The Angolan economy is obviously dependent or heavily dependent on the oil industry, and the volatility of the oil price has an impact on the capacity of the government to direct financial resources to the development of the country. This has been known for a long period of time, and it's one of the reasons why an institution such as the Sovereign Wealth Fund has been set up. For instance, we are not allowed to invest over 5% of the capital of the institution to the oil industry, primarily to focus our attention on other sectors that have to be developed.
Angola has launched various institutions to help diversify the country's economy. Launched in 2012, the Fundo Soberano de Angola is one of them.
The fund plays a very important role in that. It's an institution that has been set up following the international guidelines for management of investment funds, and that means that it's important for us as employees of the fund to ensure that these investments are done efficiently. As I mentioned previously, the government has made a lot of investments in the public sense in various areas. But it's important now for these investments to be followed by privately managed businesses. And this has to be done not only taking into account the social needs of the government, but also and of the people of Angola, but also taking into account aspects that allow for these investments to be sustainable over the long term, such as financial feasibility, quality of service, and other aspects that allow for these investments to be relevant over the long term. So the fund comes in as an institution which is owned by the state, but that has the characteristics of a private investor, because it brings in these aspects of sustainability. This is very important for diversification, because it allows for new sectors to be set up and to flourish, being in competition with other private players in the market and with other global institutions that are also keen and able to invest not only in Angola but in the broader financial markets. So the fund, in terms of diversification, allows the state of Angola not only to act as a public entity that it is, but also to bring in the aspects of the private sector management that are important to ensure that the investments are sustainable over the long term and autonomous in terms of their capacity not to be dependent on state subsidies.
Another organization pushing the agenda on diversification is Fundo Ativo de Capital de Risco Angolano, which offers long-term financial investments to support the expansion of new businesses. FACRA provides alternative long-term equity funding to local and foreign entrepreneurs looking to expand within or enter the Angolan market.
One of the main reasons or motives for our existence as an investment fund is to support the national business sector. There are a few institutions with venture capital funds, like FACRA, that exist at the level of the executive. It is understood that the banking sector has difficulty to invest in micro, small and medium-sized enterprises for reasons that we already know. However, a set of initiatives was created which included venture capital funds specifically aiming to support SMMEs as long as they somehow act in accordance with the objectives of the executive. Therefore, the Venture Capital Fund is one of the ways through which our executive supports the diversification of the economy and encourages the enhancement of national companies, or in other words, the private sector.
Na qual o nosso executivo apoia a diversificação da economia e incentiva a potencialização das empresas nacionais, ou seja, do setor privado. O FACRA, enquanto instituição pública, visa essencialmente, ou seja, atua em linha com aquilo que são os interesses do nosso executivo. E os interesses do nosso executivo primordiais é a redução do desemprego, a redução das importações, o incentivo à produção local, a diversificação.
FACRA, as a public institution, acts in line with the interests of our executive. These primary interests are the reduction in unemployment, reduction in imports, incentives for local production, and the diversification of the economy. So those are the guidelines used by the executive to effectively steer our economy towards good results. However, in which way does FACRA involve itself within this collection of actions? FACRA is involved by investing in micro, small and medium-sized enterprises. This sector in Angola and in any part of the world make up the business sector, which employs the most people. Also, they exist in greater numbers and are not very focused on machinery. Thus, micro, small and medium-sized enterprises employ many people, and our interest is to invest in them. We, as an investment institution, always look for projects that in some way are able to employ the greatest number of people, mostly Angolans, and can train them to become qualified for other challenges. Because the country will enter or is entering a moment in which it becomes necessary for Angolan youth to be prepared for what may lie ahead. These are times in which one must act quickly and become qualified, and where we must work with the institutions in which we invest.
Alguma velocidade e alguma dinâmica econômica em que precisa-se de qualificar estes quadros. E é o que se está a fazer, e é o que a gente tem apelado às instituições na qual nós investimos.
After the ad break, we take a look at what the government of Angola is doing to promote investment. Stay tuned as you don't want to miss this. Welcome back to this edition of Angola, Changing the Narrative. Angola has been hard at work to make itself an attractive investment destination. Earlier this year, the government approved a new investment law.
O grande objetivo da criação desta nova lei de investimento privado é sobretudo.
The key objective of the creation of this new law on private investment is to mainly channel the greatest number of private investors in the Angolan market. Therefore, this new law benefits a set of fiscal incentives, which, from the point of view of business legalization, creates greater solidarity and enhances efficiency of international investors in Angola. This new law is a law that in some way has been able to welcome all entities that were previously requested by international investors. Thus, we believe that this new law will be able to boost economic growth in some way, because it takes into account a set of requirements that remain the basis of concerns for international investors.
Yeah, there are some points that needs also to be refined. Very recently we got the new investment law. We need just to make easy the access of investor in country, like visas, tourist visas, work visas is something that in reality needs to be done. And we need to be competitive as a country in order to attract investment, because today we live in a global village, on a global world, and everybody is looking for investments, even US, So the thing that we need just to focus is to see if we can identify the best strategies to attract the investment.
Key to the country's success is cross-border trade. Angola is bordered by Namibia to the south, the Democratic Republic of Congo to the north, Zambia to the east, and the Atlantic Ocean to the west.
Angolans show years ago that Angola can grow in 2 digits. Not this now 4.5%, no like South Africa 3.5%, no Mozambique 7%. Because you have natural resources, and now you have the needs of the market, and we can export. For example, our big neighbor is Congo, RDC. How many consumers there? 80 million. We have a boundary, 2,400 kilometers. We have seaway. We have Bengala Railway. You have roads to go straight to Kinshasa. On past, before the war, before the independence, Angola was a big supplier from Congo. Why not manage now? I know that both governments are working to see mutual advantages. But we have also Zambia. If you improve our railway, Bengala Railway, because, okay, we have the rails, we have some trains, but we are not competitive. We need investment on this railway. We have good ports. So with these railways, working to Zambia through the Congo or straight to Congo, we have good opportunities to benchmark with these big markets that is nearby 100 million consumers. But for that we need more investment, private investment. The government is building infrastructure. Is doing what you can say is a fantastic program, rebuilding infrastructure, roads, ports, airports, power, dams. But we need more companies operating in Angola. That's what AYA is pushing for that.
One of these infrastructure developments is the port of Caio. The port is positioned 9 kilometers north of the city of Cabinda in Caio. The province of Cabinda plays a significant role in the country's economy, accounting for more than 65% of the nation's oil exports.
Nós queríamos dizer que o porto de águas profundas de Cabinda a ser concretizado é a concretização.
We want to say that the deep sea port of Cabinda is the realization of a dream and is a response to a request that the people of Cabinda argued for. The need for the deep sea port mostly results from the geographic discontinuity of the Cabinda province with the rest of the country. We understand that this discontinuity is a discontinuity of land, but we have the maritime continuity. This facilitates the development of the province of Cabinda, where one feels like being within an island. To link up the rest of the country, it always has to be through air or seaport. Air rail transport is very costly. We cannot carry large goods by air because it would be too expensive. So we have maritime transport, which is more affordable and accessible to all and brings a greater amount of goods to the province of Cabinda. It works just as well to bring goods to Cabinda as it does to export from Cabinda to other places in the country and to the world.
Mais barata está ao alcance de todos e traz maior número de mercadorias para a província de Cabinda, tanto para trazer para Cabinda como tirar de Cabinda para outros pontos do país e do mundo. Então é uma importância muito grande o porto de águas profundas, para além de todas as infraestruturas.
So the deep sea port is of great importance. Besides all the infrastructure that the port brings, it will bring development to the province and overall will provide employment opportunities to many of our youth in the Cabinda province and also the country. For us, the deep sea port is a springboard for the development of the province of Cabinda in particular and also for the country.
Desenvolvimento da província de Cabinda em particular e do nosso país no geral.
The Port of Caio is the first public-private partnership between the Angolan government and pioneer company Caio Porto SA. The port is a project aligned with the government's plan to rebuild the national infrastructure and is hoping it serves as a catalyst for regional and international cooperation through the implementation of maritime, rail, road and port transportation programs.
The concession was awarded to our organisation back in 2012, and through that time we've done a number of studies and other things to find a location, and today we've got to the position now we're actually drilling offshore here, doing the final geotechnical. The construction contract will be awarded for the main construction this year. The design is finalised, everything is in place, so now it's a very fast-track project, I would say, to get it built in a year and a half. In a year and a half, the port will be operational with one berth, and final completion of phase 1 will be in 2018, which is extremely fast for a major infrastructure project. When we found the location in Caio for this port, we noticed it was equidistant really between a lot of ports in Africa. If you draw a circle around Cabinda, you'll reach all the ports from Ghana, Sierra Leone, almost down to the south coast of, the north coast of South Africa. So we see it as an ideal location for someone who wants to make a hub to cover the African coast where they want big cranes, deep draft, to make it an ideal, cost-effective, equidistant central location.
The construction of the port will be developed in 3 stages. The project will include the development of 100 hectares of port infrastructure.
The port is basically one step in a logistical chain, and we see ports, they're drivers. They will drive a number of other logistical steps in the process. So we not only have the port, we have another 100 hectares of land adjacent to the port. There's also a special economic zone of a couple of thousand hectares just up the road from us. We will develop these areas in conjunction with the port. So basically they create business for the port and we create logistics so they can thrive.
The Port of Caio is a catalyst for prosperity and the future economic development of both Cabinda and Angola. The port will bring a substantial boost to local job creation, with approximately 1,000 positions created and an additional 1,500 jobs created in the port, office and administrative areas.
For me personally, I can see to build a deep sea port in this region will have such an impact on the community here. The logistical cost to even set up my office in Cabinda was enormous, because all goods either have to come through the Congo or from Luanda over long distances. And for us, there's a lot of natural resources in Cabinda at the moment. These resources cannot be fully utilised because there's no logistics here. When this port is finished, we've already got one contractor who wants to export phosphate, for example, and they will start operations employing people, giving employment, investing money, as soon as there is a logistical place to get in and out of Cabinda.
Since 2002, Angola has travelled a bumpy road with highs and lows. The government is putting key emphasis on improving governance, capacity building and transparency to bring efficiency to public sector management. The next 10 years for the country should be fruitful, with all the necessary initiatives and investments in the required areas.
Well, in 10 years' time, given the achievements that the country has already attained, A lot of the infrastructure that has been lost during the war has been recovered, and it's been improved in many cases. In the next 10 years, what we will see is an improvement in the human aspect of the development, which definitely takes more time. But there I'm talking about in terms of capacity building, in terms of improving the lives, the living standards of the people, which obviously comes with improving the income levels, with improving service quality and so forth. These are all efforts that really depend on human capacity and input, and that takes a time to build up. As we see it, the government has created the basis for that. It's improved infrastructure, it's improving the public management in various sectors, it's improving the economic management. As I mentioned before, inflation rates are down, interest rates are also down. The local currency is quite stable, which are all factors that are important for investment. So the next thing to really build up is the capacity of the people to move the country forward beyond the resources that the country obviously has.
Thanks for taking this journey with us to understand the promise of this nation. On the next episode of Angola Changing the Narrative, we delve into the country's booming sectors and provinces. Until next time, goodbye.